Well, our intention was to start with a performance, but instead we were juggling with it. So now we'll perform the next slide. Yes, this is a recently published work by Kapustin, although it was written in the mid-'80s. And this is an arrangement of a piece that I'll talk more about after the play. So this is the overture. to demonstrate a piece he had written for orchestra for a committee to see if they would sponsor a performance of it. So he made an arrangement for he and a friend of his to play for this committee. Anyway, so that's Sinfonietta, Opus 49, recently published. Next slide. Okay, calm down. So, Kapustin is born in the Ukraine and then trained at Moscow Conservatory. His teacher was a fellow student with Horowitz, and then he studied with Goldenweiser in Moscow. So he has a very illustrious background, so to speak, and was trained in, solidly grounded in the Russian pianistic school. When he auditioned for Moscow Conservatory, he played Rigoletto Fantasy of Liszt. So even as a teenager, he's a pretty formidable pianist. Then around the same time that he was studying in Moscow, got interested in jazz, basically in American jazz, and after graduating from Moscow Conservatory, started touring with a Oleg Lundstrom's big band, and toured with them for 11 years, basically throughout the 60s. And we have a clip. This is taken from a movie, so the beginning doesn't seem to have much to do with music, but this is the Opus 8, a toccata that he wrote for piano and big band. So this is taken out of a movie, but it's him performing the piano. Yeah. 1964 recording. And to me it seems a little frenetic. But his music is usually, the tempo markings that he writes seem to be extremely fast. I'd next like to talk a tiny bit about a set that he wrote in 1988, 24 Preludes. Originally they were published with the title 24 Preludes in the Jazz Style, but then when they got published outside of Russia, he dropped that part of the title, and they're now just called 24 Preludes, Opus 53. They were originally conceived as an LP project, long playing records, and so the 24 of them were designed to have 12 on one side of the record, 12 on the other. They follow the Chopin scheme of going C major, A minor, G major, E minor, etc., through the circle of fifths. And many of them are meant to be as a pair. Originally, he said that they should be done, the whole set. And but when he composed them, he first wrote 24 8 to 10 bar ideas. And then each one of those became a prelude. And the preludes were designed to be approximately 1 minute and 45 seconds each, so that they would fit on the LP. Since then, they were reissued on CD. He feels like the spacing in between the preludes is better on the CD, that they were a little too close together on the LP. But we're going to play two of them for you. Shiho will start with the first prelude. So this is a C major prelude. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at out of the 24, there are 6 that are slow, and most of the others are either half or the one I'm going to play for you is moderato. So this is prelude number 7. I guess it's all planned out. So this is, and you can almost tell the 8-bar sort of idea is then varied several times. down. So, now, the preludes, Opus 53, I think are a little bit harder than, or I should say they're varied in difficulty, but many of them are more difficult than the next that we're going to talk about, which is the 8th concert etude. And this actually was my connection to Kapustin in the first place, because I found out later it was one of Karol Tamazuka's students played the first etude for study program. And I had never heard, here I'd just written a paper on Russian composers. I'd never heard of Kapustin, never heard any of his music. So I wrote the name down and chatted with the student right after they played. They said they had ordered the music from England, which is essentially what I had to do and what Bob did upstairs. He ordered a bunch of Kapustin from England for us. Anyway, so the 8 concert etudes are a little bit longer than the preludes, and yet I think many of them, the level of difficulty is a little easier than some like the prelude that She-Ho just played. I think it's harder than the prelude that she will play next, which is the one from the 8 etudes. Many of his works are now available through a Japanese edition that I guess you would pronounce Prism. It's mentioned on your handout. The album number 1 includes that etude and also the finale from the set. But I wanted to also, and these are edited by Masahiro Kawakami. And at first I just knew him as somebody who was promoting Kapustin's music and coming out with editions. Well, it turns out he's also the teacher of Tsuji Nobuyuki, who recently was a medalist in Van Cliburn competition, and I think about a year ago played his Carnegie Hall debut. So I wanted to play the second, at least about a half of the second etude, as performed by Tsuji when he was 15 years old. He's playing on Japanese television, and we'll play about half of it. So this, he's blind, yes, blind Japanese pianist. And Kawakami mentioned in an interview that the first piece that he himself performed was this etude. So this is his student Tsuji at age 15. to talk about some of the miscellaneous pieces that he's written. Also, I might mention he does write for other instruments, but primarily for piano. He has some chamber works, but he early in his career wrote 6 piano concertos, many of them to be done with and that's just pieces called piano concerto. He also wrote pieces like the Toccata that we heard for big band and piano, but some of them then were for a more conventional orchestra. He's so far written 20 piano sonatas. He's still writing. He's up to about opus 140 at the moment, although publication is only up to about opus 133. But the miscellaneous pieces include Toccatina, opus 36, which is basically a sheet music sort of thing, although it's also in some of the anthologies. This was the first publication brought out by the British publisher that is doing his music now, called MUST, M-U-S-T. It's really short for Music Trading Company. And Tim Gill established the publishing house specifically to promote Kapustin's music. So a lot of his music is available through them. Some of the sonatas, for instance, on demand, because they're not yet printed in this form, but you can get a copy on demand. The Toccatina was the first piece they published. It sold out in 8 months and is now in at least its 3rd printing. It's kind of a, Andy and I were talking about this earlier, it's kind of a, I'm not going to play parts of it for you, but it's sort of a little more pop rock sort of feel to it, but something that I think would be appealing to a lot of high school students. Another miscellaneous piece would be Motive Force, written in 1985, and Shiho, did you want to play it? Maybe a little bit, just to give, this was one that she had started, but then it's been on the back burner, so just to give you an idea of Motive Force. I wanted to mention the 10 bagatelles. Originally, there were 2 volumes of anthology through Zenon. They're no longer in print, but if you can find them, one of the volumes has all 10 of the bagatelles. And that's a really nice set. This is volume 2 of the Zenon. Includes all 10 bagatelles. And one of them is in one of the later anthologies. Another piece that's in here, as well as the more recent Prism anthologies, is the Sonatina, opus 100. I think it's probably one of the most accessible pieces that he's written. I'm not going to play it at his tempo, but I think even John Salmon, who recorded some of it, was saying that he feels like Russian jazz usually seems too fast to him. And at least the way I play, Kapustin's tempos are too fast. So this is at about 3/4 his mark tempo. This is the beginning of the Sonatina. It's beautifully written in a very standard form as far as it's got intro, then first theme, second theme, repeat the exposition, has a nice development section, the recapitulation, then has a little cadence that's exactly like the cadence before second theme and the exposition. And so what I'm going to do is take the beginning of the exposition and then go from that cadence, which is the same anyway, to the end of the recapitulation. So this is beginning and end of the Sonatina. other miscellaneous pieces I'm kind of eyeing? Oh yes, one of the pieces that's in the anthology or available as sheet music is a set of 3 impromptus, opus 66. And Kapustin himself doesn't like performing solo anymore. He does play chamber music with people. One interview with somebody else mentioned that when he had a recording project, which I think was probably the Preludes, that he had to stop composing for 8 months to practice enough to play the music. So he finds his own music somewhat challenging as well. But this is very comforting to know that. But so this is Kapustin himself playing somewhat recently, within the past 10 years, on, I think, Korean television, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So this is a video clip. It's actually that one that has the title in it. If you go back a couple, that's that one. Yeah. Yeah, and then yeah, it'll appear magically appear. So this is him playing, and I'd like to play the whole thing just because I think it gives you an idea. To me, he seems a little reserved, but pretty amazing. There are a number of YouTube clips of Kapustin that are audio only. This is the only one that's recent that I found with him playing solo music. The other ones are all from the 60s, and there aren't that many of those. I also wanted to mention, at least, he's written a work for 2 pianos called Paraphrase on Dizzy Gillespie's Manteca that Shia Ho and I played last fall. And very fun to work on, but also very challenging. And Bob has gotten a couple of copies of that upstairs. I highly recommend it. Also, on YouTube, there's some marvelous performances, including one that I was really tempted to play, and that's a 2-piano team in Japan that has some other YouTube clips, including Sinfonietta. But this one, they're playing Manteca, and they're standing because they're playing at one piano. And then you realize there's one that reaches around and then switches places, and it's hilarious. But it's very well played also. Just amazing. Anyway, we'd like to conclude with 2 other movements from Sinfonietta. If you can't tell, we really like this piece. This is the second and then the 4th movement. Second movement is a slow waltz. Also, I'd like to thank Bob Averill for jumping into the rescue with a laptop that can project and helping with turning pages. dances. So this is a rondo. that concludes our presentation. Did you have any questions? If you're interested in more about Kapustin, Wikipedia is now a really great place to start for him. A few years ago it wasn't the best place to start, but now that's the best place to start, and then the related links are very good, especially there's sort of a fan website out of the Netherlands with lots of information and interviews and things like that.
Is most of the music available on CDs?
A lot of it's on CDs, but more of it on YouTube. There's more available on YouTube than on. But Marc-Andre Hamelin and Stephen Osborne and